What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Economic Events. Today I'm going to be reading an article from Bazinga.com. Inflation cools in May. Fed hints at the slower pace of rate cuts. Stocks hit new record highs this week in the market. In a week marked by significant market events, inflation data for May showed cooler than expected figures, boosting investor hopes for Federal Reserve rate cuts starting in September. Despite Fed Chairman Jerome Powell's cautious stance. This optimism, coupled with unexpectedly high weekly unemployment claims and weaker consumer sentiment, helped the S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 indices reach record highs for 4 consecutive days. A lot of that was probably carried by NVIDIA in their recent stock split. I don't think GameStop had anything to do with this, just because they're not in any of these NASDAQs or any of these S&P 500s or anything like that. Broadcom emerged as a top S&P 500 performer, with its stock soaring over 20% due to strong earnings and growing demand for AI chips, making one of its best weekly performances since going public. Additionally, Apple's unveiling of AI innovations at the Worldwide Developers Conference led Goldman Sachs to significantly raise iPhone sales projections for 2025 and 2026. Economist Paul Krugman declared victory over inflation, emphasizing that core inflation, excluding shelter costs, provides a more accurate economic picture. Okay, so Paul Krugman, you're making no sense right there. You're saying you're declaring victory on inflation if you exclude the shelter costs. Okay, so if your shelter cost is $5,000 a month, you got to take that out, according to Paul Kruger. That's just asinine right there. He doesn't know what he's talking about there. I don't care if he's a certified economist or anything like that. Anybody with a brain cell can tell you that you have to include housing and shelter costs into the inflation report. Otherwise, what's the point of it? You have to include all of it. You know, and that's another thing is with the CPI that they do is they get real picky and choosy with it to make the numbers look better than they are. And you know, this fool Paul Krugman has believed the hype. He's bought the lemonade that the Federal Reserve has been selling him. That actually is piss. GameStop saw a surge in shares after Keith Gill, also known as Roaring Kitty, his name tickles me every time, increased its holdings, and the company's annual shareholder meeting drew significant interest from retail investors. Meanwhile, Tesla moved its incorporation from Delaware to Texas. That's most likely tax purposes, reflecting CEO Elon Musk's operational shift to Austin. These developments underscored the market's resilience and adaptability in navigating economic data and corporate actions. So a lot of good stuff happening there. Of course, Broadcom, shout out to them for carrying the S&P 500 this week with that 20% surge. Has some really good earnings, strong demand. Of course, the overall message of this whole thing was, you talk about Broadcom, you talk about the Apple, AI right there. Now, GameStop, we all know, is a meme. Most people aren't, I would assume, aren't taking this thing serious. They're probably just in there gambling, which is fine. Let them do it. It's their money. You can do whatever you want with it. If GameStop went ahead and did something with artificial intelligence, all of a sudden, that would skyrocket their price even more than it's already doing right now. I think it's currently at like $30 a share or $29 a share. And that's just get returns that it's had just in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So it's nothing crazy either. And then with the economic data that Paul Krugman, this fool, is talking about, I'll just go over that real quick. And so in January, we had 3.1 CPI. February was 3.2. March was 3.5. April was 3.4. And then May was 3.3, which makes the yearly average for 2024 3.3. Now, to me, that's not a victory on inflation. And a victory on inflation is zero. If inflation, Mr. Economist Paul Krugman, you're off by 3.3%. If that's the case, then when it reaches zero, that's when I'm going to say we've reached a victory, declaration of victory against inflation. Until then, until further notice, we haven't won anything. Now this guy Paul Krugman is probably a multimillionaire where he can afford, to buy a huge house and not have to worry about inflation and all that other stuff. and gas prices. We do, as regular people, we have no choice. So, a little bit disingenuous for him to say that. And I would hope that he backtrack on that, which I'm assuming he will when the next CPI report comes out, but worse than expected, and inflation reaches towards that 4% rate, which is not what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping Paul Krugman is accurate with his declaration of victory, but at these numbers, absolutely not. We can't declare victory. It would be foolish for us to think that. Like I said, he's been, he bought some lemonade from the Federal Reserve, and he's gonna drink it pretty soon and realize they just sold him some pee. That's all that is. So let me know what you think down below in the comment section. If you're a big fan of Paul Krugman, tell me how wrong I am. I don't really care. I'm gonna take the input anyway. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell that's next to my name, that way you get notified every time I post a brand new video. I'll catch you all later. Bye bye.